Hey guys, Ryan over 2 Minute Tennis. Just want to take you through the process of how I analyze video. I think proper video analysis is absolutely the best way to improve someone's technique and make a real lasting impression on their game, whether it's for yourself and you want to analyze your own technique, whether you're a coach and you want to help your students, or you're a parent, you want to help your child. It's really important to be able to analyze a stroke. So here's my serve from the back and side view. I want to take you through how I look at somebody's video. Now I'm going to use myself as the example, but I want to take you through the process. So when analyzing a stroke, it's always grip, body, swing. And on the serve, it's grip, body, toss, swing. That's the order in which you want your eye to look at things, because the swing is actually built on the foundation of the grip and the body. And for the serve, it's the grip, body, and toss. So how are you supposed to find and understand someone's grip if you are looking at it on video? That's really tough, right? Well, one of the best ways to do it is, first you can look at it from the side, and you'll notice right here I have a little bit of a trigger finger. I'm zooming in as far as I can, but you'll see that there's a little bit of space right there in between my index and middle finger. And so it's really important that there's a trigger finger, because it just means that the base knuckle of your index finger and your heel pad are on the same bevel. Now, how do you know which bevel they're on? So hopefully it's on bevel number 2, which is a continental. And from the back view, it's actually pretty easy to know if someone's got a close to a continental or a continental grip. And that's the angle of the racket. So the way I look at someone's grip is to actually look at the racket face. And you'll see that my racket is facing slightly up to the left. It's very, very slight. Most players, if not all players, who have a forehand grip, like an Eastern or a semi-Western, their strings are pointing down. And when the strings point down, you know that is a forehand grip. In fact, those players usually bounce the ball with their racket as well, because the strings are already facing down. So if you're analyzing your own serve, if you're analyzing a student serve, if you want to start a video lesson business where people all around the world are sending you videos of their forehand or backhand or serve, and you want to help them, if you're looking at a serve, look at the racket at the beginning. The racket should be very straight up and down, or it can be very open, strings facing up. The more open it is, the more likely it's going to be a continental. I do have a continental, and I have a slight openness to my racket face. So look at the racket from the beginning and just see if the racket face is either on edge or slightly open. Generally, if that's occurring, it's going to be a continental grip. So the next thing is the body. So the body always starts with the feet. You know, back foot usually parallel or near parallel to the baseline. The front foot angled in slightly. So you can see I've got that. I also rock back from forward to back. You'll see that I'm on my front foot. The weight is on my front foot, and then I rock back. So my weight's on my front foot and I rock back. I like seeing a weight transfer going back and then forward back into the court. So just if you're looking at your own video, if you're looking at a student's video, if you're looking at your child's video, look to see that they have a weight transfer back and then forward again. And if you just think about Kyrgios' serve and how he rocks back and then rocks back forward again, it's just awesome. Serena does the same thing, rocking back onto that back foot and then going forward. It's just a great, great thing. The second thing when it comes to the body I want you to notice is how I'm rotating. So here, notice you can see my back. And here you can see that my right shoulder is closer to the camera. Now watch how I rotate. See, I'm rotating, where here now you can no longer see my back. Now you're seeing my chest. So there should be a rotational movement there, because when you rotate and you coil, you can then uncoil. If you coil away from the net, you can then uncoil toward the net later on in the swing, and that just generates power and it just generates racket speed. So not only should you be rocking back with your body, there should be a rotation during that rocking as well. Now, let's talk about knee bend. We're still on the body here, okay? When you go to toss, that's when your knees should bend. So it's toss and your knees should bend. So there should be a downward movement as the racket begins coming up to knock off the birthday hat. We'll talk about the birthday hat coming up in a second. And then as the racket passes in over the head to knock off the birthday hat, that is when the leg should then start pushing up again. So you can see I was going down with my body as the racket's coming up. And then when the racket becomes right in over my head, that's when my body starts pushing up again. So the body should be pushing up as the racket is just passing from in front of your face to above your head. That's the proper timing of the body going up, because when the body goes up, the racket is helped down and it gets to pull down farther and you actually get more racket speed from it. If the player is a high enough level, they'll be jumping off the court, landing onto the front foot inside the court. That back leg will kick up as well for balance. And then there should be some forward movement into the court. Obviously, after contact, you would then fall backward, or not fall backward, but jump backward behind the baseline to be ready for the return of serve. So now that we've talked about the grip and the body, let's talk about the toss. I just want to show you the tossing movement and really the movement of my left hand. Let's look at it from the side first. We were talking about my body rotating. Well, that's going to bring the ball back here. So the ball is going to rotate back. So you can actually see the ball come back behind my tossing shoulder. So if I draw a straight line at my tossing shoulder, you can see the ball has actually come back behind my tossing shoulder. It actually makes it then very easy to toss forward into the court. Many players keep the tossing hand out in front and they end up tossing behind them. So if you're someone who tosses behind you a lot and you're looking to toss forward into the court, then bring the tossing hand back when you during the coil stage so that you can actually toss forward into the court. Again, that's why you want to talk about the body first, because the toss is off of the body. You're tossing with your tossing arm and it's being affected first by the body. So you want to rotate away from the net so then you can toss forward into the court. When you toss, make sure that you lift only from the shoulder, that there's no elbow, wrist, that you're not flicking the ball, that you're not even rolling the ball off the fingertips. I want you just tossing the ball almost like it's a glass of water, tossing it up into the air so that there's no wrist movement. You're trying to keep the water in the glass, and you're going to release around eye level. I do want you to notice, if you film yourself from the side, notice you cannot see my face. The ball is actually covering my face from the camera's view. That tells you where my arm is. My arm is actually parallel to the net. Again, that's because I coiled my body and I brought it back and I'm now tossing into the court. You're going to toss with keeping that arm up super high. After you release, the tossing hand should keep going up. And then we talked about when the body goes up and when the racket passes in over the head, there's actually a third thing that happens as well, and that's when the tossing hand drops. The body should start going up as the racket comes in over the head, as the tossing hand drops. Those three things should actually be simultaneous. When it comes to the height of the toss, I personally have a very low toss. I hit the ball very near the peak. The ball does drop a few inches, but I try to hit the ball very close to the peak. I get to hit a stationary target. It's actually very easy to time because the ball's not dropping from a high point. Also, when you have a lower toss, it's much easier to have a consistent toss. The higher you toss, the more errant the toss can go. So let's now go. We've talked about the grip, body, toss. Let's go to the swing. There are 7 checkpoints, swing checkpoints I look for in the serve. And let's just quickly go through them and then I'll backtrack and I'll talk a little more about them. There's the ready position. There's palm down. There's knock the birthday hat off. There's on edge, which is right there. Contact, pronation, and the finish. So at the ready position, you can see that the tip of the racket is pointing up. My arms are bent and relaxed. And you can see the racket is actually resting on the ball. My arms are relaxed. I'm loose. My knees are slightly bent. I'm ready to have an athletic movement, right? After I go across my feet, I toss the ball and the tossing hand leads slightly. But I want you to notice, especially from this angle, I want you to notice how the tip of my racket is actually pointing at the camera. From the left here, if we look at this side, you'll notice that my racket never points at the camera. That the tip of the racket is not pointing back, but it's actually pointing to the side, kind of like along the baseline. And we can see that from the right view here. From the side view, you can see that the tip of the racket is actually facing the camera. This gets me into, and it's called palm down because the strings are down, the palm is down. This gets me into the quarterback throwing position. From the back view here, you can see my elbow is back. The tip of the racket, as we talked about, is pointing off the screen. Strings are pointing down, and the ball is already out of my hand. I love finding this position in my swing, in my student's swing. This is great timing, great rhythm, but also great stroke production. So I'm primed and ready to use the proper throwing motion, that quarterback throwing a football motion. Now, checkpoint 3 is knocking off the birthday hat. If you've been watching me for any amount of time, you've seen me demonstrate knocking a birthday hat off of my head, where the racket comes very close in over my head, palm down, and the edge of the racket would actually knock a birthday hat off of the head. This is the proper throwing motion. This is the proper football quarterback throwing motion to make a loop. If you look at Roger Federer, if you look at Novak Djokovic, if you look at Kyrgios, if you look at Sam Groth, you'll see that that racket passes right in over the head. And that's a great move for amateur players to make in order to use the proper service motion. Go out and get a birthday hat, put it on, and see if you knock the birthday hat off. The birthday hat should be knocked off during the trophy pose. Now, I don't like calling it a trophy pose because the trophy pose is like a place and a time, where knocking a birthday hat is actually a movement. So you're actually knowing how to move the racket, not just where your racket should be, but what it should do prior to contact and what it should be doing after contact. You should be knocking a birthday hat from forward to back off of your head. At this point, your body is really exploding up. We already talked about that. And when you come around, your racket should be on edge. Since I'm right-handed, my strings are facing off to the left. It's why we can see through my strings from the side view, because the racket is on edge. Now, why do we want to be on edge? This is called supinated. It's the whole reason why we want to use a continental grip. The continental grip gets the edge of the racket leading toward the ball. Why is that important? To force pronation. Pronation is the act of turning the racket into contact. And I'll show you that in a second with checkpoint 5, the contact. It's the fastest way to deliver the racket to the ball, but you got to be on edge first. I would even practice just hitting serves with the edge of the racket, just to feel what it's like to come up with the edge. And then if we go to checkpoint number 5, which is the contact, you'll see that the racket turns. Let me move this side a little farther along. You'll see that now I'm actually hitting the back of the ball. But prior to contact, it looked like I was going to use the edge. So you want to learn to turn the forearm into contact. That's the fastest way to fire the forearm and deliver the racket into contact. You'll notice that as I was dropping my tossing arm, that it begins to pull in against my body. It's really important to use what's called a reactive brake. This is where the body slows down as a way to accelerate the racket by pulling this left arm into the body. Look at Federer. He pulls this left arm into the body. Look at Roddick. He pulls that left arm in against the body. It's a reactive brake. And when you slow the body down, the racket accelerates. So you want to make sure that you're pulling that tossing arm in against your body at contact. Make sure that it goes out forward first. A lot of recreational players, when they try pulling the tossing arm against their body, they go straight down. And you don't want to do that. Let me make that red, actually. You don't want to do that. I always do things that you don't want to do in red. But you want to actually reach out and then pull back in. Watch my tossing arm on the right here. Watch it go out toward the net, then pull back in against the body. That's what creates that reactive brake that slows the body down and accelerates the racket. So checkpoint number 6, that's pronation, where the strings are facing, if you're right-handed, strings should be facing off to the right. You can see on this side, strings are facing the camera. That's just body motion tends to stay in motion. So once you start pronating, you're supinated now, where the palm is facing left if you're right-handed. Once you start to rotate the forearm, it continues rotating. And if you're very loose, you can get that racket to go fully facing off to the right if you are right-handed. Again, the tossing arm should be up against the body. You'll notice from the back view here that the tossing hand is actually visible. It should be visible at contact and after contact. Check Federer, you'll see that. And then at the finish, I'm landing on my front foot which is my left foot. Back foot again is kicking up, but you can see I'm not the type of person who flares this left arm, where my left arm comes flaring back. I don't think that has a huge benefit, cost benefit analysis, because if I truly just keep it tucked in and I make sure it's tucked in, I hit a much faster serve. I'm not too worried about the balance at that point, because I'm going to quickly get out of the finish and get into my ready position to receive that next ball. I don't need to hold my balance that much on the serve. So I'm not a huge fan of that tossing arm going back. I'm a much bigger fan of just making sure that arm stays tucked in. And you can see my head is up, chest is up, ready to receive that next ball. So the next time, if you're a coach, next time you help a student with their serve, if you're a parent, analyze your child's serve. If you're a player and you want to analyze your own serve, make sure the grip is right. Look at the visual cues of where the strings are pointing. If you're right-handed, the string should be facing slightly up to the left if you're right-handed. Obviously, reverse that if you're a lefty to make sure that you've got the continental grip. You should be rocking your weight back with a coil of the body, bending the knees and then exploding up, making sure that you coil and you pull that tossing arm slightly behind the hitting shoulder as a great way and an easy way to toss the ball into the court. That you release around head level, but the only thing that's lifting is the shoulder. And then once you make sure you've got that, then check your swing checkpoints. Checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, make this a little bigger. Checkpoint 3, checkpoint 4 on edge, checkpoint 5, the contact, checkpoint 6, the supination, checkpoint 7, the finish. I hope this helps you understand exactly how to analyze and to start from the foundation, the grip and the body and the toss on the serve before you ever start looking at your swing. And if you follow these steps, I'm telling you, you're going to understand the serve better and you're going to help yourself and others a lot more. Good luck.